Taking the dog for a walk. Figured I'd get a Banlist prediction out since that's something YouTubers do. Since YCS Niagara is wrapping up today, I figured it's probably safe to assume the ban list will be coming soon. We just got an OCG ban list. It was huge. I doubt the TCG ban list will be as big. I'm still going back and forth on whether I think they're going to hit Mystic Mine. Um, if I had to guess, I would say that it's probably getting close to time for that to leave the format. Um, the the next thing that I can see getting hit is maybe Artifact Scythe. It hasn't been doing a whole lot recently, but with mine out of the format, I imagine the next thing that people will be using to lock people out is Scythe. A lot of people are calling for Hulk to get banned. I really don't think Hulk is a problem right now. I can see them doing it just so that they can keep something like Jet Synchron legal. The whole reason Jet Synchron was banned in the first place was for the sins of Hulk. So I can imagine them taking Hulk out of the format just to keep certain other cards that they want in the format to be able to stay in the format. I can maybe see them hitting the Adventure Engine. I feel like the Adventure Engine's been out long enough. It's had the opportunity to top a few events. Maybe seeing either Water Enchantress or Rites of Aramesia going to either 1 or 2. Ideally, Water Enchantress would be going to 1. Water Enchantress not only represents the entire adventure line, but it also represents an extra body on the field. Ideally, I would like the TCG to follow in step with the OCG and ban Griffin Rider at some point, but I don't think that's going to happen anytime soon. I think they still want people to be able to splash the adventure engine into certain things. I think aside from that, I don't really know what they would hit necessarily. The top decks right now are brand new. I could see them hitting Toad, maybe banning it or limiting Swap Frog. If they want to kill the engine without totally killing other decks that use the frog cards, I could see them maybe banning Rodin Toadin. That seems a little out there, but that seems like just the kind of out of left field ban to try and fix the format that I could see Konami doing, especially in a format where pretty much every deck that's doing well right now had almost all of its cards come out in the most recent set. In terms of hits for Tier Lament, I can see Winda getting banned, and maybe the Dangers. The Dangers are extremely powerful because they help trigger the tiers and they help to turbo through your deck. Tier Lament having access to Winda is just too broken, though, in the same way that Sprite having access to Toad is just too much. Things I'd like to see come off the list. I could maybe see them experimenting with bringing Engage back to more than 1 copy, maybe to 2, just to see how it does, like it is in the OCG. But with 3 Kagari, 3 Widow Anchor, I don't think that's very likely. I'd also like to see some of the cards on the Forbidden list that probably don't need to be there come off. I can imagine that Time Seal will either be going to 2 or to 3 on this list, just because it's done nothing. Any concerns that Konami had that it was going to be a problem are probably quashed at this point. I don't think anything from Exo Sisters is going to get hit. I don't think anything from any other decks are going to get hit. Without hitting any of the core cards from any given new archetype, you're just going to see flavors of the decks that are already good continue to be played. I would maybe like to see some of the Draco Slayer cards Draco Face Off maybe peel off the list a little bit with the new cards coming out soon. I can maybe see them doing that. I know a lot of people are calling for um, Heavy Metal Foes Electromite to come off the list. A lot of people thought that he would come off the list when they released a bunch of Metal Foes support. People, I think it's going to come off the list because of the new Draco Slayer stuff. It's not going to happen. Electromite's just too powerful, and they've peeled too many cards that are broken in conjunction with Electromite off the list in order for Electromite coming off to make any sense. I mean, ideally, I'd like to see some of the more powerful cards that support certain archetypes come off the list. Like, I think Sekka's Light being at 1 makes 0 sense in a format where Mine exists. If Mine doesn't come off the list, I'd love to see a card like Sekka's Light come off. I'm interested to see if they continue with the trend of releasing powerful Duel Monsters era staples off the list. They released Harpy's Feather Duster and Change of Heart. I'd be interested to see if they start releasing more cards. Obviously, certain cards are never going to come back. Graceful Charity and Pot of Greed are probably never going to be back in the format. But I'd be interested to see if they take Heavy Storm off the list. There's been a lot of discussion about whether Heavy Storm is too powerful, what with being able to trigger your own cards on your own turn. But I don't really know what decks would benefit from that. The only thing I could think of is Eldritch, and that just seems extremely minus in the grand scheme of things. You could very easily be playing other cards that do the exact same thing, but don't minus you. A card like Foolish Burial Goods. That card's not played in Eldritch, so I don't see how that would be very powerful. I could maybe see archetypes that want their cards destroyed seeing more play, but almost every single one of them is rogue at best. None of the current top decks want to see their cards destroyed, so I don't think I can see that becoming a thing. So I think Heavy Storm would be fine, and it would add a lot of counterplay in the same way that Dark Hole does, where it would only be good on your first turn, and it wouldn't be as good later in the game if you have cards on your side of the field that you don't want destroyed. Ultimately, I think the bare bones things that I think need to be done are the Mystic Mind needs to be addressed. Sprite needs to be addressed either by banning Toad or limiting one of the frogs, probably Swap Frog. And I feel Tier Element needs to be addressed in some way. I don't know the deck super well to be able to say what would be the best thing to hit. From my limited understanding, it seems like Tier Element is starting to use the frog cards as well, so Toad, I guess, would be an indirect hit to that deck as well. It uses the dangers, which would be good to get rid of. From my understanding, it uses a lot of generic fusions, getting rid of Winda, Dragostapelia, any number of powerful fusions. But beyond that, I don't really know what else Konami would be up to at this point. Here's the pup for those of you that might have wanted to see her.